Hello everyone, my name is Amrit Mehra and I teach at Edification Coaching, Dialbagh, Agra. I have tried to record some videos to assist the students with their academic preparation. The first video is on microeconomics and this would be especially helpful for 12th ISC as well as 11th CBSE. Before I explain the concepts covered in the textbook, let's understand the basic difference between micro and macro. Microeconomics focuses upon individual variables. It talks about the decisions of individual producer, individual consumer. Whereas macroeconomics focuses upon the entire economy as a whole. There are various laws covered in microeconomics, such as law of demand, law of supply, consumer equilibrium analysis, indifference curve analysis. The main thing that you need to remember is all these laws and various analyses are based upon certain assumptions, right? The assumptions help to finally prove the law true. In the beginning, the text focuses upon the three major central problems of economy, such as what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. When we talk about what to produce, the basic dilemma of a producer is whether to produce a necessity good or a luxury good. When the dilemma is how to produce, then he has to decide whether to produce manually or by the use of machines. For whom to produce means the decision has to be taken, the goods have to be made for low income groups or for high income groups. Apart from the three central problems, there is a difference mentioned between positive economics and normative economics. When economics only mention the facts and the problems without any solutions for them, then we say economics is positive in nature. But when economics, apart from the problems, also mention their solutions, then it is called normative in nature. There are three types of economy which are mentioned. First, define what is an economy. It's a system which helps the people who are a part of it earn their livelihood. Three types of economy can be socialistic economy, capitalistic economy. So mixed economy takes some characteristics from capitalistic and some from socialistic. Then the major part in the initial chapters is about production possibility curve. So I would just start explaining the production possibility curve. Before I explain, this also is based upon certain assumptions. Let's talk about them. First assumption is resources that a producer will be using is already given. The resources are not supposed to increase or decrease because this will affect our PPC. Either it would shift rightward or leftward, which we don't want. So second assumption, given resources are being fully and efficiently utilized, there is optimum utilization of the resources. They are not underutilized. Third, the state of technology is constant because again when state of technology changes, it would force our PPC to shift rightward or leftward. Then let's take an example. The producer is producing two commodities, Maggi and pasta. Both are being expressed in kg. The combination are 100 and 0, 90 and 25, 70 and 50, and so on. Now what we have to understand is that the slope of PPC, the curve that we are supposed to make, is always concave to the origin. This curve, this PPC from y-axis to x-axis is concave to the origin. Now why is it concave? We really need to understand that. For understanding, we need to talk about MRT. MRT is marginal rate of transformation, also being mentioned as MOC, that is marginal opportunity cost. It talks about the loss of output of one product, of one commodity, for gaining output of another commodity. You can also state it as a formula, or you can mention it in words to form the definition. Now what we have to observe in this schedule is, first we are producing 100 kgs of Maggi and 0 kgs of pasta, right? To produce 25 kgs of pasta, we sacrificed 10 units of Maggi, as in we lost 10 kgs of Maggi to produce 25 kgs of pasta. If we divide 10 upon 25, we get the value 0.4 in decimals. Moving further, we produced 25 units more of the second product, that is pasta, and we lost 20 kgs from Maggi. Let's put this in a fraction form. 20 kgs Maggi are there's a loss of 20 kgs in the production of Maggi, and 25 kgs are being increased in pasta. The value is 0.8. You always have to remember that if we shift from production of one commodity to another, the circumstances might differ. Production of one commodity might be favorable for us, but the production of another commodity might not be equally favorable. So because of that, we have to sacrifice more and more. First we sacrifice 10, then we sacrifice 20, 30, 40 and so on. So because of that, the value of MRT is always supposed to increase. There is generally a 1 mark question upon this, whether MRT should increase or decrease. MRT, as we can see, is always supposed to increase, 0.4 till 5. Now this MRT is the slope of PPC. Because of this MRT, this PPC is concave to the origin. Why it is downward sloping? For any downward sloping curve, I will just give you a logic. Whenever we have to show direct proportion or direct relation, we will always be going for an upward sloping curve. When we have to show inverse relation, we will be going for a downward sloping curve. For example, if I can increase both the variables, let's say variable 1 is increased and variable 2 is increased, then this is a direct relation and the graph would be upward sloping. But if I show the opposite relation, as in one commodity is increasing and the second commodity is decreasing, this is inverse relation shown by a downward sloping curve. PPC is downward sloping, IC is downward sloping, demand curve is downward sloping, budget line is downward sloping. Only in the beginning, the supply part would be upward sloping, because it will be showing you a direct relation between price of the commodity and the supply of the commodity. The PPC is based upon certain assumptions, as we just recalled. Now if you change the assumptions, the PPC can experience 4 different cases, 2 of rotation and 2 of shift. Let's discuss the rotation part first. Rotation can happen because the state of technology for the production of either of the good A or good B can change. The first case of rotation, there is first PPC shifting to the rightwards towards second PPC. What does this signify? This signifies that the production for good A expressed on the y-axis is being same, whereas the production of good B expressed on the x-axis is increasing. The increase is only for good B and not for good A. So this shows that the state of technology improved for the production of good B. Then this particular case, good A and good B, the shift is happening from good PPC 1 to PPC 2. The increase is only being shown for good A expressed on the y-axis, whereas the production for good B expressed on the x-axis is not changing. If there is only if the change is only being expressed for one commodity on one axis, then it is known as rotation. But if there is an increase or decrease in both the commodities expressed on either x-axis or y-axis, then we call it shift of PPC. The shift of PPC is happening because of change in resources or the potential level of output for the existing laborers increasing or decreasing. Now, in this case we show the change of PPC from PPC 1 to 2 and a decrease in the production for good B from rightward to leftward and for good A from upward to downward. This shows an increase in the resources or increase in the potential level of output. The PPC 1 is shifting to PPC 2 on the right hand side, showing a change in good A, which is shifting upwards, and good B, which is shifting rightwards. So these are 4 possible cases of PPC. Now we have to remember a similar concept further in budget line as well as demand and supply, where we will be discussing the shift and the rotation part again. Then we further move to utility part. Utility is the want satisfying power of a commodity. It is different from usefulness. It does not have any ethical connotations. It is subjective and relative. It means it differs from person to person and from situation to situation. Utility can be understood according to cardinal approach and ordinal approach. Ordinal approach states that utility can be measured in numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Some economists supported the cardinal approach, and in this chapter the consumer equilibrium concept is based upon this approach, whereas some economists stated that measuring utility in terms of numbers is practically not possible. For example, it is very difficult to judge that how much utility you will get from a cup of tea. So some economists stated that it is better to measure utility according to ranks or a scale of preference. It is definitely easier to say that you get higher utility from this good and a lesser utility from the other good. The indifference curve analysis and the budget line is based upon the ordinal approach. The main terms that you should be accustomed with are TU and MU. TU refers to total utility. TU is the total satisfaction that you derive from the consumption of all the units of a commodity. Whereas MU is marginal utility. It refers to the additional satisfaction that you get from increasing the consumption by one more unit. The formula for TU would be the total of the MU valued up till that unit. TU is found out by sigma MU, or totaling the unit of totaling the value of MU, and formula for MU is TU nth minus 1, total utility up till certain unit and subtracting the total utility for the previous unit. You can also use the formula delta TU and delta Q upon delta Q for finding MU. The graph for TU and MU is shown as upper panel graph and lower panel graph. This is based upon the concept of law of DMU. It means that the law of DMU states that as we consume more and more units of a commodity, the satisfaction that we derive from each successive unit keeps on decreasing, because of which MU in the lower panel is falling down. You can understand this particular graph in 3 stages. In the beginning, the total utility which is being expressed in the upper panel is increasing. It is reaching till maximum, then it is falling down. Total utility is increasing, reaching till maximum and then falling down. Now this increase is at a decreasing rate. TU is increasing, but with each additional unit we see that the rate of increase is decreasing. For example, let's say 10, 18, then 24. This 10, 18 and 24 will tell us that there is an increase of 8 and there is a further increase of 6. As TU increases at a decreasing rate, the MU which is being expressed in the lower panel starts falling down. It is falling down, but it is still positive. As TU reaches its maximum value, the MU becomes 0. Then finally, the total utility after reaching the maximum point starts falling down, because of which the MU becomes negative. This relation is often asked. I'll help you to revise it. In the beginning, TU increases at a decreasing rate. MU starts falling down but is positive. TU reaches maximum, MU becomes 0. As TU finally falls down, MU becomes negative. There is often a question asked, can MU increase? MU is not supposed to increase as it is following the law of DMU, diminishing marginal utility, and it is always supposed to decrease. Now, using this concept, we are trying to understand consumer equilibrium aspect. Consumer equilibrium aspect states that a consumer is rational. He will always try to maximize his utility for the amount he is spending. This is consumer equilibrium aspect. The price level is said to be constant. This is again an assumption. The price level of the commodity being expressed on the y-axis is constant, it is not changing. The marginal utility is also written on y. It is showing that marginal utility is falling down. As we consume more commodities, the marginal utility is falling down, but it intersects with the price line at a particular point. This point of intersection where MUX is equal to PX is the point of equilibrium under consumer equilibrium analysis. But you have to remember that consumer equilibrium has to be understood for a single commodity and then for dual commodity case. This shaded part shows that it shows consumer surplus. It tells that the value of marginal utility is higher than the price. The marginal utility value is higher than the price up till this point. So many a times students are confused that why didn't the consumer stop the consumption just after the first unit, why he has to carry on the consumption. We are again going by the logic that a consumer is trying to increase his consumption up till the point where the two values are in a state of rest or equilibrium, the formula being MUX being equal to PX. After covering consumer equilibrium analysis for single commodity, we need to cover consumer equilibrium analysis for double commodity case. This case can also be named as law of equi-marginal utility. The law states that the last rupee that a consumer spends, whether on good X or good Y, gives him equal satisfaction or marginal utility. Before explaining the concept, we also need to understand that we will be using the word MUM. This is marginal utility of money, which can be defined as the worth of money or worth of a rupee for a particular consumer. Now, to explain this concept, let's go with an example from the book. Let's assume that the consumer has 88 rupees with him and the price of commodity X or commodity Y is same, that is 8 rupees. We are increasing the consumption and increasing the units from 1, 2, 3 and so on. This MUX and MUY, 88 and 40 are random values. 88 is the utility that we are getting from consuming 1 unit of a commodity. 88, 72, 64, 56. Again, there is no specific formula to write the utils because, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, utility is subjective and utility is relative. Thus, utils cannot be fixed. So there is no formula and we are writing the values to make a suitable example. MUX we can see that it is decreasing from 88 to 72 to 64, 56, 48 and so on. The MUY, the utility that the consumer gets from the consumption of commodity Y, is also decreasing from 40, 36, 24, 20, 16, 12 and so on. First of all, why does these utility fall? They fall because this concept is based upon law of DMU, which stated that as we consume more and more units of a commodity, the satisfaction that we derive from each successive unit keeps on decreasing. We made MUX column, MUY column. You can also add two more columns which are generally not given in the book. MUX divided by PX and MUY divided by PY. PX being the price of X and PY being the price of Y. 88 divided by 8 we got 11, 72 divided by 8 we got 9, 64 divided by 8, 8, 56 upon 8, 7, 48 upon 8, 6, 40 upon 8, 5, 32 upon 8, 4, 24 divided by 8, 3, 16 divided by 8, 2, 8 divided by 8, 1. Similarly, we make a column MUY upon PY and we divide the value of MUY by the price of Y, that is 8. 40 upon 8, 5, 36 upon 8, 4.5, 24 upon 8, 3 and so on. The formula that you were following for single commodity case was MUX being equal to PX. This was the point of equilibrium for a single commodity case. Now in law of equi-marginal utility, we have to remember the formula or the point MUX upon PX being equal to MUY upon PY is equal to MUM. We got these values. Now relate where are they equal. 5 and 5, 3 and 3, 2 and 2. These are the points where they are equal. Let's make a chart out of it. At 6 units of commodity X and 1 unit of commodity Y, we are spending overall 56 rupees, considering that the price is 8 rupees per unit. This 3 is in front of 8, so 8 units of X and 3 units of Y. 8 units of X, 3 units of Y, we are spending overall 88 rupees. Third case, 9 units of X and 5 units of Y. Overall, we are spending 112 rupees. As we had to allocate 88 rupees in the best way to get the highest utility, case 1 is not suitable because we are not able to allocate 88 rupees. Case 2 is the point of equilibrium because this is the way that we are able to spend 88 rupees to get the highest satisfaction. The third point is again not suitable because 112 rupees is out of our budget. So in this example we judged that if we consume 8 units of commodity X and 3 units of commodity Y, we are able to spend 88 rupees in the best way, and therefore this is our equilibrium. Let's show this on a graph. Y-axis, this is the only graph in the book where you have to show y-axis on the left as well and y-axis on the right as well. This is for good X and this is for good Y. The number of units you are showing in the X-axis. The utility that we get from the consumption of good X is also falling down. The utility that we get from consumption of more units of Y commodity is also falling down. The point where they intersect is the point of equilibrium, and the formula can also be written again that MUX upon PX should be equal to MUY upon PY being equal to MUM. This entire concept was based upon law of DMU, and it also assumed one more important thing, that MUM is constant, right? After covering consumer equilibrium analysis for single commodity and for double commodity, we move to the next topic, that is indifference curve. Indifference curve is based upon the ordinal aspect of utility. Indifference curve gives various combination for two goods, let's say good X and good Y, that give equal satisfaction to the consumer. Again, indifference curve is based upon certain assumptions. First, income is given. We are making indifference curve on the assumption that the income of the consumer is constant and it is not changing while we are choosing the various combinations for good X and good Y. Second, income is spent upon two goods which are substitutes of each other. So we are plotting the indifference curve for only two commodities, and those two commodities can be substitutes for each other. The definition for substitute goods is the goods which can be consumed in place of each other. Third assumption, consumer preference is well defined. So as we mentioned under ordinal aspect, that the choice of two commodities would be done according to the scale of preference. So we say that the consumer preference for a particular commodity, whether for good X or good Y, is clearly defined or given in the question. Fourth, monotonic preference. This assumption is just taken to ease the explanation for IC. It states that more of good would always give more satisfaction to the consumer. Fifth, rational consumer. Rational consumer is the consumer which tries to maximize his utility for the amount that he is spending. Now, according to these assumptions, we made this IC, but important thing is, if we plot more than one IC, let's say apart from IC1, I also choose to make IC2 and IC3, then it can also be called as a IC map. Properties of indifference curve are often asked. First, IC curve slopes downward. Again, the concept of inverse relation. If the income or the budget is already given in the question, then if we increase the consumption for one commodity, it is pretty obvious that the consumption of other commodity has to decline. If I use more good X, then I have to use less of good Y and vice versa. So IC curve has to slope downward. IC is convex to the origin. When we were talking about PPC, it was concave to the origin because of the concept of MRT, that was marginal rate of transformation. To prove that IC is convex to the origin, we need to understand the concept of MRS, which is marginal rate of substitution, which shows that how much units of one good we are sacrificing to increase the consumption of the other good. The formula is similar to PPC, delta Y upon delta X, but we also have to input a minus sign. Let's take an example to understand MRS, whose value is always supposed to fall. Then let's say we are using 2 units of good X and 6 units of good Y. I increase 1 unit of good X but decrease 1.5 units of good Y. When I had to increase 2 units of good X, I decrease 1.5 units of good Y. So what we can observe is, when we have more units of a commodity, the utility that they have for us is less. We are ready to sacrifice a greater number in the beginning, but eventually, let's say we were ready to sacrifice 1.5 units in the beginning, but later on we were sacrificing only 0.5 units. as we sacrifice more and more units of a commodity, then the satisfaction that we derive from the commodity increases, because of which we decrease the rate of sacrificing. If we input these values, as in we decreased 1.5 in the beginning to increase 1 unit, then we decrease 1.5 to increase up till 2 units, then we further sacrifice 0.5 only as compared to 1.5 to increase the consumption of X by 2 units, which further give us the value as 1.5, 0.75 and 0.25, which proves that MRS always has to fall or decrease, because of which the slope of IC has to be convex to the origin. Whether we talk about IC1 or IC2 or IC3, they are convex to the origin. Third, a higher IC will always show a higher level of satisfaction. Whenever you plot an IC on the right side, for example, IC2 is plot on the right side of IC1, IC3 is plot on the right side of IC2, a rightward IC is always giving us higher satisfaction because it shows that the consumer is able to consume more units of both good X as well as good Y. IC do not touch or intersect each other. They can be closer to each other. IC1, IC2 and IC3, I can plot them much closer to each other. Let's say I plot IC4 very close to IC3, but they are not supposed to intersect. Because if they intersect, then after the point of intersection, the part which was showing you higher satisfaction will start showing you lesser satisfaction, which is practically not possible. IC curves do not touch x-axis or y-axis. I made an IC, but I did not touch it with y-axis or did not touch it with x-axis, because even in our example, we are stating that the consumption never reached 0 units, whether for good X or good Y. So if the consumption is not 0 units, then the IC curve is not supposed to touch the x-axis or the y-axis. I'll again help you revise it. PPC was concave, IC is convex, PPC's slope was found by MRT, IC's slope is found by MRS, PPC was for the producer, IC is for the consumer. After studying indifference curve analysis, we need to cover the budget line. Budget line is also known as a price line. Before moving further in the topic, let us adapt ourselves with two important words, budget line and a budget set. So budget line is showing us different possible combinations of again two goods, let's say good 1 and good 2 or good A or good B, which a consumer can buy given his budget and also the prices of both the goods. Whereas the budget set refers to attainable combinations of set of two goods given that the income and the prices of good are already mentioned. So if I have to talk about a budget line, I would take a line, but all the possible combinations which are under this line are referred as the budget set. They often ask you to show indifference curve along with budget line to show the consumer equilibrium point. Let's say we plot the budget line, which is again downward sloping, because if we increase the consumption of good X, the consumption of good Y has to decrease because our budget is limited. If we increase the consumption of good Y, the consumption of good X has to decrease because of our limited budget. Budget line is plotted. You plot an indifference curve. You plot these values according to the schedule given in a question. So if after plotting they intersect at a point, in our example it's point E, where these two lines are intersecting and giving us the equilibrium, where the slopes are being kept as equal. The slope of IC curve was denoted by MRS, the budget line slope was denoted by Px upon Py. If we keep them equal, then it is showing the state of equilibrium. Like PPC, budget line can also shift or budget line can also rotate. The assumption that we are taking is that the income of the consumer is given. If income of the consumer increases or decreases, it would affect our budget line. The original budget line that we take in this example is 1. It is the second budget line, which is on the rightward side, is showing an increase for both good 1 as well as good 2. The second budget line shows that we are able to consume more of good 1 and more of good 2. The third budget line on the leftwards is made because we are saying the income of the consumer is decreasing, because of which he is able to consume less of good 2 as well as less of good 1. Shift of budget line is always because a change in the income, either increase or decrease. The rotation of budget line is because of the change in the price of good A or good B. These 4 examples show how the budget line can possibly rotate. Initial budget line 1. Second budget line on the right is showing us that we are able to consume more of good X. Why? Because the price of good X is decreasing. The consumption of good Y is being same, but the consumption of good X is increasing on the second budget line. If we change the explanation, we say that this is our initial budget line and we are showing a leftward change by the second budget line because we are saying the prices of good X has increased. Same cases can be shown for good Y. Initial budget line 1, second budget line. This is showing that we are able to consume more of good Y with the same quantity of good X because the price of good Y is falling down. Last case, initial budget line 1, second budget line. We are saying that we are decreasing less of good Y because the prices of good Y have increased. The consumption of good X remains unchanged. So the PPC can rotate and shift, the budget line can rotate and shift. After all these topics, you need to cover about demand and supply, elasticity of demand and supply, and returns to a factor. These topics are very lengthy and cannot be covered in the same video. So I would like to conclude the video by telling you an easy way to learn 4 chapters and formulas together. This particular schedule is not given in the book and would help you to relate the chapters. You studied about total utility and marginal utility till now. AU or average utility is not mentioned. Then in the further chapter of returns to factor, you need to study about total product, marginal product, and average product. In the revenue chapter, you will be studying about total revenue, marginal revenue, and average revenue. And further, in cost, you will be studying TC, total cost, MC, marginal cost, and AC, average cost. So important thing to learn is all the total values, whenever you need to find them, you need to use the formula of sigma. TU is sigma MU, TP is sigma MP, TR is sigma MR, TC is sigma MC. AU was not mentioned, but for the rest of the values, that is AP, AR, AC, you need to remember that these are average values. So they are not supposed to be 0 and they are not supposed to be negative. These are all fraction values. The formula you will be applying is for AP, TP upon Q, AR, TR upon Q, AC, TC upon Q. The marginal values are always the difference between the total value of a certain unit minus the total value for the previous unit. MU is TU nth minus TU nth minus 1 MP is TP-nth minus TP-nth minus 1. MR is TR-nth minus TR-nth minus 1. Similarly, MC is TC-nth minus TC-nth minus 1. So with this topic, we complete the video. I hope you like the video. Kindly like and subscribe the channel, and you can also check the edification updates on Edification Coaching's page. Thanks a lot.